Good evening, good afternoon. Listen, what time? It's 10 o'clock. It's 10 o'clock in the evening. Good evening, Ronnie. How are you?
Good evening, Yasheka. I am grateful. How are you doing, my dear?
I'm holding up. I'm doing well. I can't complain. Just another week that went by really fast. Other than that, I mean, yeah, just another week, but what are you drinking on today?
You know what? I since I am on this new lifestyle fine, everyone's talking about summertime fine, so I'm trying to get a lifestyle fine. So I'm cutting down a lot. So tonight I am, however, just drinking Sprite. So there's no libations for this evening,
Okay.
as I am on this mission of clearing off 30 pounds to get lean and mean to get ready.
For the summer, you wasn't
For a
you?
lifetime. That's I don't want to do it to the summer. This is gonna be. This is let me get back down to my LL Cool J weight here.
Right, right, right.
In the rock. So
Listen, it's a consistently you're fighting that bulge as you're that age spread. The older you get, it's just one of those things like you. I mean, no matter what you do, it's like you're down 1 minute, you're up a minute.
yeah, you make sense.
It's just a same on over again, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Good evening, everybody. Welcome so much. Thank you so much for joining the Ronnie and Yasheka's dating discussions. And I am Coach Yasheka, affectionately known as the artist of dating, and I empower successful women to date through self-discovery while finding the love, balance, and all. And for my handsome co-host, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Here, my name is Ronnie Walker. I am the master coach of exceptional dating, relationships, and sex. And we discover how to be exceptional in all those areas by self discovery and being exceptional ourselves.
Okay. So I'm looking over here, and I'm probably not looking at the what you call it, because I have to have like multiple screens open, and lo and behold, sure enough, my all of a sudden I can't even use my desk, my laptop, and it's a whole situation. So I'm just going to work on two screens, one so that I can see you, and the other so I can see the comments. Because we do have some people that dropped in and said hello, Michelle. Michelle, what's up? Hey, that's one of my homegirls, one of my high school
Good evening, good
one of
evening.
my high school homegirls. But today, Ronnie, I decided that we were going to talk about some of the questions that's been asked over the last few months because every now and then I like to throw out those thought-provoking questions to see what it is that people have to say about it. And because sometimes I'll even get inbox answers because people don't want to necessarily put their answer up on my profile for whatever reason. And I'm here for it. Listen, however they give me the message, you know what I mean? And so I wanted to take a couple of those questions today and discuss them because there was one question that I asked, and there was a few people that came back on that question. Was like, listen, I don't know what's going on out here in this dating world, but I'm glad I'm married because this ain't for me right now. Because this is like, it was a whole situation. I'm like, you have no idea. And I tell people, listen, if you can figure it out, figure it out. Dating here, because dating streets is rough. You know what I mean? They are rough. But so some of the questions that were answered, I had people to, come on and give me their thoughts about it or whatever. And so I'm going to attempt to put one of the first one up on the screen. I hope I do this right. So this one, I asked the question, the date. I'm going to put it up here, and hopefully it's going to probably block us out, but we'll see it. But the first question is, when dating, what's some immediate red flags? What is an immediate red flag? And what do you think some of the people had to say about that? What's an immediate red flag when dating?
Well, for men, the first thing they look for is, well, the first thing they look for is if when we're having discussions as to why, what brought them back into the dating space. And if they are explaining their situation, currently is, let's just say a past relationship, and it leads into the relationship before that and the relationship before that. If every single breakup, they're never at fault, to men, that is a red flag. It's like, wait a minute. So you were perfect and flawless in every single relationship you were in. Like you couldn't find one thing that you may have contributed to, or thought that maybe you may have made a wrong assumption. So this mindset is always the man's fault. I'm telling you, men are just on guard of that more than ever nowadays. And so that is the one thing. And if you're trying to find fault with any and everything in terms of your old worldview, if most of you you're just speaking of the space of it's just negative energy as opposed to positive, to the men it's like, sometimes they feel they're just going to be jumping through hoops that they may never ever get a chance to reach some sort of happy medium with that person. So for them, those are the two first red flags. Oh yeah, I think you're muted.
So you're saying the two red flags would be one of them being that the person is perfect. So
Mm-hmm.
is that are you suggesting that that's one of the things that the men would say?
Yes, that's
Okay.
what men have been saying. Yes, they have been
Okay.
saying that.
And then the other one was, say what the other one was, the second one?
The other one was their worldview. If they can't find anything positive moving forward in terms of the dating space, just life in general, because we do know, I mean, you turn on the news, you could just see bad news immediately.
Hmm.
But if they can't find some form of optimism in life and in the future, then it just seems as though what's going to happen is that as they move forward in the dating space, that she's always just going to try to find something. So certain parts of maybe good work going good, but if this goes bad, then that outweighs all the good. And so they just say, look, that's just more work than it's worth.
Yeah, I
So
can see that.
that's
I can see that being
that
from
is
a guy.
what I've been hearing a lot from I've been on a number of panels this week, well, say the past 2 weeks, and some of the coachings. And funny enough, I've been speaking to a few more men, but especially on the panels when it comes to the men, and they open that can of worms. This is what comes out from the men overall, pretty much.
Okay. I believe if for me to answer that question, I think I wouldn't give an answer that's straight direct, which means there are a lot of things that are red flags, but it's up to the discretion of the receiver, more or less,
Absolutely.
right? So, so one of our viewers said inconsistency in the conversation are red flags for her. Absolutely, inconsistency of any sort is a red flag for me, for sure, for sure. But one of the things that I think kind of for me, it's a blanket, and I find this to be true because as I have worked through the process of relationship to relationship, a red flag for me, and I think it kind of sums it up on everything. If it's a person told me they just got out of a relationship less than 90 days ago, and the relationship was a relationship, not a meet me in the middle of the night type of deal, but I'm talking about a real relationship, and it's been less than 90 days. That's a red flag for me, and here's why. I believe that most people do not, and I think you and I have talked about this, and I stand to this because, matter of fact, I had a conversation with someone about this yesterday. And one of the things that I see is that a lot of times, and I'm gonna split the sexes this time, men and women, right? Because I only know about men. I don't know anything about women because I don't date women. But when it comes to men, men don't take time in between relationships a lot of time to have some alone time, whether it's some soul searching or to mentally, just rethink some things that they may have, done or didn't do, reflect on previous relationships. That time to grow and start to learn a new habit as opposed to, the person that you were with before. And the reason why I say that one is kind of a blanket for everything for me is because what I've noticed is that when a person doesn't have that time to try to be by self and heal, then they bring all of that residual over to the next relationship. And so if there was, and I'm not saying that 90 days is enough, but I think after about 90 days, a person really feels like, okay, I've learned a new habit now. I'm doing things without that person. I've learned to not have to worry about getting someone else to eat when I get myself something else, something, right? So whether they live together or not, or on the weekends, they're used to, if they didn't live together, they're used to hanging out on weekends together, right? So now they have to get used to not having that person to fill in that weekend spot or whatever. So I feel that if a person is fresh out of a relationship, 90 days or less, that's a red flag. It's definitely a red flag because I just see too much coming over. And unfortunately, the things that they have coming over to them, they pull that into that new relationship and put some of that over on that new person. So if by chance that relationship doesn't work out the way it's supposed to be, then the person who you put that burden on, right? Because you're now in, you now you have a different view because you've been within a relationship with someone else. So now you coming over to this relationship with some spillover, and now I'm being blamed for something someone else did. And I just think that time needs to be in between one relationship or another, especially if you've been in a relationship longer than 90 days. I definitely think you should have some time away from that person, or before you start dating again. I ain't say you can't have no fling, but to get in something serious.
I agree. And I will go so far as, and maybe we'll differ here in terms of the whole fling thing. Just in my personal journey, and I've spoken of this from time to time, even on be it amongst friends and just in my journey, is that as men, we were not conditioned to take that time to heal. That was just a woman thing, what'll help you get over that past relationship is another relationship or another woman. So men resort to the flings, and we did, trust me. And we can all go into the space, men, and I know some men will disagree, where, well, Ron, a couple of flings in between you finding the one. I says, no, I've done that. I could write a book on the why that is not healthy. But then again, there'll be some men and some women who will disagree, because when I tell you the time you really need to deal with the self of there's so much to reflect on in the relationship itself, her, and you as a man. And so, and here's the thing, and why the fling can sometimes, that could have been the person that you were probably looking for in the beginning. Again, do what you do, but I'm just a big proponent now, and all that I've learned in my journey is taking time for yourself and just really reviewing your space in that time in the relationship, and really so that when you do meet that next person, for whatever it is, I mean, if you want to have a thing and you're in a healthy space, okay, again, do you. But I just know that, and I believe I stand with what you're saying, Yasheka, that we as men, I know, and there's many men who will agree with me on that, is that that's not just a space that we're taught to deal in. We just say, that one's gone, many more fish in the sea. There's nothing that's going to help you get over the last one like a new one. And so this is where we are. Now, I'd like to add that there are men coming around to that and realizing that this is where they need to be. And I'm glad to see and talk to men who've done that. But yes, there was something that generations past we were just not conditioned to do. So that is my thought on that.
So some of the comments that people made up on this particular post, I'm gonna read a few of them off. One person said that they're talking about their materialistic achievements. I bought a house, I bought a car, I did this, I did that. That's definitely a red flag. And then someone said having their exes, specifically ex-boyfriends around, being a smoker, being rude, having babies under the age of 2, no job, and bisexual. He said that that's an issue for him. And then someone else came back with a little doozy and said, I can't post her name if I would have capped on her like that. He said, but her picture's in the dictionary next to red flags. So he was saying, he said he can't post the name, but she in the dictionary, And of course, talking about exes, then of course I got narcissism, dominance, drama, and a lack of therapy. Lying about the age of their children and the amount of children that they have, overweight, breath smells. They will pop out and you never go in looking. They will pop out, you never go in look. I'm not sure how that is the same, but it was just so many answers that they gave me, and I wanted to dissect some of these because someone mentioned something about the exes. Now let's talk about the exes, right? So when I think of an ex, I think that an ex needs to only be a part of that person's life if they have children or they have some things that they still have to settle from the relationship. You know what I mean? And so they're still, wrapping that stuff up, whatever, because especially if it's something where you're splitting property, if you were married, that can take up to years. You know what I mean? So I can understand why they would have any type of having their ex around. If it's something like that, or if they have children. Um, but for the most part, though, I think the X is an automatic no-go. I had someone tell me the other day I was talking with them that they had met someone, and this person had just got out of a relationship, like not even 2 weeks prior to them meeting this person, and they broke it down and pretty much said that that they still see their ex, but they don't really know how the relationship is going to turn out, so they just dating to see what's out there. And the person's response to them was, "I'm not about to sit up here and wait for you to decide like what you're doing. Like either you're ready to date somebody else or you're not. But let me just go ahead on because if I get caught up in this, and so it was a whole thing. And that's why I really believe about the whole wait some days, wait some months, because I just think that there's no reason for your ex to be around if you don't have children. Like they don't. Like, and the only time they should be around is if you're dropping off and picking up. What do you have to say about the exes?
You have hit on that. Listen, I personally been in that years ago where they really try to convince you that they're really just a friend now, and I'm going, you know what? I'm just not taking that chance. I'm just not taking that chance. Now, to your point as well, there were those in cases of marriage, like husbands and wives that they've got sizable businesses, and sometimes breaking that up. And so sometimes I would coach. I said, well, you have to understand. And I'm always telling someone that I'm coaching, look at it from that other person's view. We can all take this. I don't care what that person thinks. This is what it is. And good luck with that mindset. But you have to understand that as you're working towards um, earning the confidence, and the security of that woman or that man, it's important. I mean, especially if this is someone that you're really into. But you have to realize and see how they see it, because we all know the stories of the exes that come out of nowhere, or they see now that you're moving on to something which in all points is big and better. And then they claim that they've healed and they've done some work. And then it's like, listen, Yasheka, we have history together. I mean, you really want to throw all those years away? And guess what happens? And the same thing with the men. We're not even talking with children in the space. We're just talking about a history of they've done some traveling together. The sex was off the chain, whatever the case may be, and here he or she is thinking like, well, you know what? Damn. Do I really want to start over now? I know he's a great guy. She's a great woman, but we had such great times together. And that friend, that ex is a friend, then homeboy, homegirl is getting a Dear John letter or a Dear Jane letter. And this is what happened. So it still surprises me how many men and women still defend that. And then here's how they do it. And so, well, maybe he or she is just insecure about it. They just can't understand that sometimes exes can be friend. I'm like, no, that's not what it is. You want to paint it that way? I says, no. Again, look at how they may see it, because we do know, and there are many stories where that person has gone back to that ex. So I'm with you. An ex is an ex is an ex. With some extenuating circumstances that I think you need to work out prior to putting yourself back out there, because you're really putting that person in a very vulnerable position, more vulnerable than dating is in the first place.
Okay. Well, 100%. I think we're all on board with that. And then someone also stated in there about treating someone treating someone bad. Like when they're at a restaurant or whatever. Our live went out on Facebook. What's going on? I'm gonna have to refresh it because it went out over here. But they said treating someone bad at a restaurant. And I think what that is it's a character flaw. You know what I mean? In other words, if you are on a date with someone and you saw them being rude and disrespectful or whatever, real nasty towards the host or whatever, the waiters or waitress, then it definitely shows character. It definitely shows the lack of character, should I say, of that person. And that's the part that I think is pivotal because it kind of tells about who will you be in any situation. If you're treating this person like that, then you're looking at them as less than, right? Because if the owner of the restaurant, if it's a nice restaurant and the owner's on a premises, if they came over there and said something, that person's gonna be very cordial with them. They're gonna be nice. So why would you treat them any different than you treat this person who's waiting your tables? And so I think it definitely does talk about the person's character in that instance. And so I could definitely see why someone would say that as a definitely red flag for them. What's your opinion about that?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. You know, it's funny that I can't tell you how many times I've heard that happen, and it blows me away that there will be men, and I'm picking on the men in this point because this is something that I've heard that men tend to do this, where they treat wherever it may be, the movie person, the person at the food truck, if they're going out to dessert or even a dinner, just treating the wait staff, and the women saying this man or woman is going above and beyond, to make sure that their needs are met during their dining experience. And the men just, and I'm going, I said, what man in his right mind is going to show that part of himself? But then again, that's a good thing. The red flags are early on. And I agree, it's a character thing. And ladies, if you let it go beyond that date, then whatever happens, well, then, but no, I agree with you. And again, okay, so the fellas are going to say, well, the women do it too. Okay, just so you can be satisfied. Yes, there are women who do that too. But this is something that I hear many men do. And men, if this is you, please reach out to me and Yasheka for a coaching. That's it.
Well, absolutely. All right, we're going to move on to the second question, and this one didn't get as many responses as the one that I just previously asked, but I think they were posted. This one right here was posted on April 22nd, and then this one was posted on April 27th. So about 5 days apart. So it said, oh, excuse me, no, this one came first or second. So question of the day. So men, when dating, what exactly are you looking for in a lady? And they wanted me to be specific, about like, what do you mean when dating? What are we looking for? So they was like, I think I had to go and explain. I'm not talking about somebody that you would just, bang, you know what I mean? Like someone that because if you're dating with a purpose, then you're looking for a potential mate. So what are some of the things that you look for? Like, specifically, right? And I think that a red flag, the opposite of a red flag would be something that you can kind of put on your list too, because, for example, if a man is looking for a particular type of lady and he sees that she's not being nice to the people who work in the in that industry, the weight industry, then or what is it, housekeeping, or what is it, house something, that industry, whatever they're working in, but he's looking at that like, well, I know that this is a red flag, but it's also something that I don't want in a woman. So those same things that are red flags are things that he can start to process what he doesn't want, what he doesn't want. And so, you can have, because when you talk about the physical attributes, people will often tell you about what they want physically, right? And then they'll go to the basic and say, I want somebody that's caring and considerate and respect, those things. But to me, it's still kind of like superficial. It's not really getting to the nut and bolt of what are you looking for in a partner. So what do you say about that when it comes to that? What are some of the things that you think men would actually say out loud?
I am very, very clear that when I talk to men, and you hear me use the word a lot, Yasheka, it's intentional. Men need to be very, very intentional in their dating. And by that I mean that if you're dating, be clear and are you looking for a wife? Are you looking for a lifetime partner without the legalities and the formalities of marriage? But when we're talking about attributes, are you looking, men are looking for women who are secure in their femininity. And by that, they mean a woman who understands that femininity is powerful and not weak, as, some women tend to sometimes communicate that as. So they're secure in their femininity. They're secure, and when we're talking about women over 40, that they are happy in what they're doing in life, work-wise and business-wise. They're also looking for a woman who's very clear and effective in her communication. And by that, I mean this. So when she says something like, I want a man who is supportive, I say, okay, gentlemen, then ask her, okay, so let's just say, Yasheka, you want a man who's supportive. Well, what does support look like for Yasheka? What would I have to do to make you feel supported? Because again, we can talk about it emotionally, you know, could be spiritually, financially. What has to happen in order for you to feel supported? So this way, you don't run into the situation which tends to happen where he's supporting you, but she doesn't feel supported. And then when it blows up, then it's like, yeah, but I did this. And then she says, well, I didn't ask you for that. I wanted this. But see, the conversation was never had. So I'm real big on dialing down or going deeper than the things like, I want a man who has a sense of humor. Okay. A woman with a sense of humor. Okay, was that like comedy shows? Is it a type of movies? Is it a Dave Chappelle type of comedy? Is it a Kevin Hart type of, Cat Williams, whatever it may be. So these are things that will implant into the man's mind, so that if he plans a night of going out, or if he wants to show support in her business, if she is someone who wants to be supported spiritually, okay, is she a churchgoer? Or is she someone? And so these are things that men really are looking for. So in effective communicating and really specifying what she is looking for in the man. And this helps a man become more intentional and knowing what she likes and what she's there looking for.
Okay, all right. Well, I would say when it comes to the woman, I would think that definitely a man will want to know, like, first head on, how does she conduct herself, right? How do she look at, like, in other words, you can tell a lot from a person on a first date, right? So, for example, there's been times where I've been out on dates and not even realizing what I'm doing, I'll go to open the door for myself, right? And so the man, I think that they'll notice that right out the gate that she's used to being the person that takes the lead. She's used to being the person that's in charge. She's used to not having this type of thing, you know what I mean? Or she's not used to this type of thing, which in actuality I am, but sometimes I'll do things distinctly because, you know how, especially with my former job, there were so many things. The mindset is always about get it done. Like for me, it's always about just get it done. So if I'm entering into a building, my thought is going inside. So as far as what happens before that, sometimes I'll, just distinctly reach for the door, and so I've been corrected more than once, but I think that that's one of the things that men will vibe on. They will look at that and they can tell a lot from a woman from that. So when they are dating, those are some things that are literally in the first date. You can tell kind of how a person is. You understand what I'm saying? Like there's just certain things you can tell, so some of the things that he says, let me put up this comment, what Michelle said. She says, but then it can be viewed as she's too direct or aggressive. Absolutely. And she's right about that. Because when she means by that is, if back to the initial question of, what you call it? When we wait on certain things, right, to, for you to open the door, for you to do this, it's almost as if damn if we do, damn if we don't. Because then it's almost like you're demanding him to do it, instead of you waiting on him, instead of you taking the initiative, let him interject, you know what I mean? And so it's one of those things where certain things, it does make us look, more direct or aggressive, you know what I mean? When we're not trying to be, we're just used to doing certain things a certain way. But there's so many things that you can look for in a first relationship, in a second, married, dating, and a second date. You know what I mean? When you go out with somebody. But what do you think about that?
To Michelle's point, here is something that I've learned in the 30 years in this space is that the only thing you can control is how you communicate. You can't in any way, shape, or form, and try as we may. Now, sometimes some seem to be a little bit more effective than others as to how a person is going to receive that. And usually how a person receives what you're communicating them, is based on the state that they're in.
Right.
So if they're in a positive, receptive, if they're positive state of their overall positive person, then they're going to be more open to receiving what you're saying, and it not come across as being too direct or too aggressive. However, you'll find some people who are the first to ask you to be direct, and then when you're direct, it's like, well, that's too direct. Well, what the hell does that mean? How many times has someone said, okay, Ron, Mr. Relationship Man, give it to me straight, no chaser. And then I give them to a straight, and they say, well, what do you mean by that? And so now, or it's the same with my posts. Some of the posts I make are very lengthy. Like, Ron, I can't read all that damn you're reading. Us as well. I'm trying to provide the context and nuance, because if I broke it down to the straight, no chaser, then they're asking me, and then I have to go right back and do exactly what I did originally. So, Michelle, I get it. However, all you can do is do your best in reading the state of the person that you're communicating this to, and remind yourself that if they're asking for it, then they're just going to have to take it to the way you do that. And you read the room and you say, okay, well, this is what I mean by that. But in the end, if they're defensive or they're in their feeling or whatever the case may be, no matter how you communicate to them, it's still going to come across wrong, or it's not the right tone, or or whatever the case may be. So yes, I wish I can give you the magic way in which to communicate to these men, and you're going to speak to many, that it's going to come across effectively in all ways. But I can assure you, trust me when I tell you this, Michelle, I can assure you that there are some men that you can say it. You can say, I'm leading with love. And they're going to say, well, damn, Michelle, do you have to be so harsh with it? You just can't control that. So just do the best you can to just see how the state that they're receiving the message is, especially if they're asking it. So,
and it definitely works both ways, though, because the way I see it is that if I'm perceived as being too direct or aggressive, if I wait on you to open up the door, at the end of the day, that's a sign for me too, as the person is attempting to date you as well. In other words, if your feelings are hurt by me waiting, then you're not the man for me, and I know that too right off the bat. Because because in other words, if you take it like I'm being aggressive because I'm waiting and I'm looking at it as being a lady, and you're taking it the wrong way already, then I already know for me that's a red flag, because we shouldn't be that sensitive as adults. You understand what I'm saying? Now, if I say, if I said it out my mouth, aren't you gonna open the door? Ain't you gonna open the door? That's different. And I said it with a little attitude. But if I just politely stand back as a woman and just kind of, that's not no insult, because I'm doing it in a very receiving way. I'm coming from a place of offense rather than defense. You know what I mean? Because if I stop at the door and look at him like this with my head turned, then that's more of a defensive position. But if I stand back and I'm just like this, then that's more of an offense. Other words, you know what I mean? You know how I say with my pinky finger up and all that, like that's what that means. So if he is
right.
offended, then it's a red flag for me, because we're both dating each other right now. We're on a date with each other. So you're trying to read me and I'm trying to read you. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? At the end of the day, that's what that means. And go ahead.
No, I agree. I agree. There are those times when, again, I talk to both the men and women. I was like, listen, just take some time to know their story. I've been in a situation where she opens the door and I'm going, wait, hold on. After I've communicated that this is how men do, and how, at least me. So then I'll walk around to the side of the car. I said, let's try this again. I'll open the door and let her get in. And then I'll open the door and let her get back out.
Yeah.
And so it's just these kind of, what I like to think is just a fun, quote unquote, cute sort of way. Just let her know, look, I understand, but if you're with me, this is how this works. I open doors.
Yeah.
I pull out chairs. There are those things. So, but you're right. It's all in the way you communicate it.
Right.
I agree.
And I had someone leave a message also. They said that they're looking for someone that's minimally equal to that shares similar values and morals as they do. In other words, he understands that you're not going to have everyone, but he's looking at least the minimum. Like say if you got 10, your top 5, you know what I mean? Something like that. But also, I look at it from that perspective. When it comes to morals and values, it's like we look for that in people, But is that the deciding factor a lot of times? Because here's the thing: we could find someone that value wise and morally wise, according to him, meets what is equal to mine at the minimum, right? But then now I'm like, well, Bud's he don't make enough money, or he ain't tall enough, or she ain't got this killer body, or you know what I'm saying, she that ain't her hair. You know what I mean? In other words, if it's really about morals and values and the minimum that you would say, okay, is passable, then why does it come down to other things? Because if you know that this person has the same morals and values, in my opinion, everything else should be easier. Because getting someone to believe some of the things you believe and look at things from an ethical perspective as you do. For example, when we use the thing when we're talking about the waiter or the waitress earlier, right? If part of your ethics is being courteous to people or showing respect to people, right? Then in instances like that, that's what you look for in a person. So, but then you don't keep it on that focus. You keep it on, well, but he don't make enough money, or her body is not banking like this, or whatever. And so I always wonder when people say that, somebody that shares this, when they say, well, I just want somebody that shares the same values and more as I do. I'm like, yeah, but if that's the case, that's not hard to find, especially minimal. But does it come in a pretty bow that you wanted to come in, the pretty wrapped pink bow that you wanted to come in, or the blue bow, And then another person said that they know exactly what they are looking for. The question is, will they find it? And that's when you have to think about. And I think that that's when you start to go down your list and say, okay, there are some things on here that, I gotta have, right? They're non-negotiables. But then there are those other ones that are negotiable. For example, I might not like anyone that chew with their mouth open, right? When they smacking and stuff like that. Is that a non-negotiable? For some people, it may or may not be. It just depends, because some people are like, oh hell no, there's no way. Because I would be embarrassed to go out to dinner with him or her, or I would.
I've met those people, yeah.
So maybe that's one of your non-negotiables. So that stays on the list. You know what I'm saying? So get down to, what do you really see as what you're willing to waver on and what you're not.
No, I've had those conversations with men and women, and it's just not. I said, "You sure that's a non-negotiable?" Said, "Ron, trust me. You've gone on this date with a person, and then you give them a second chance, and it just doesn't work. It really just doesn't work for them." So, we can debate with anyone in terms of, for them, what a non-negotiable is and what they will negotiate. And it's interesting how when you're younger, the list is like 5,000 things. You're in your 20s and sometimes 30. The list is like five, but then the older you get, you realize there are things that you whittle down. And
that's
see,
where my guy needed to be pretty with good hair. I was like, I'm pretty with good hair. I ain't care about nothing else. Make sure he look good with good hair. I want to have good hair.
So these are those things that, that everyone has. And just because your list changes over time, it doesn't mean you're becoming more desperate. However, you realize what is important. Now, to your last point, Yasheka, when people say it's all about what was the virtue, I believe it was this, the truth is, a lot of people are lying about it. They say, "Oh, I just want a person with this." Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you hear me, it's okay to want someone who's fine in your 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever you feel that is. Look, this is someone, and assuming that your intention, that this is someone you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And if you have to look past so much to just take yourself there to get that turn on in your life, then I'm telling you right now, it's just a recipe for disaster. And see, when men and women say things like that, at least let me just speak for the men. Already look at this as, okay, well, look. So when we were discussing your past relationships, none of those men you described had those attributes you're looking for. So we look at the pattern. Men look at the pattern. And women look at it in their way, but there's some things that women look over because they think that, some of them fall into the trap of, I'm going to change him into, and that's a whole nother conversation. But men look at the pattern of the men that these women have chosen. So when they come up with these attributes, it's like, but okay, so you're looking at, for me, am I the first one now? Is this a new leaf that you're turning, or did you pick? And so it's okay if you still want a man who has all his hair, or a long, or 6'5" or whatever the case may be, and still has good character, integrity, and things like that. It's okay to want that. I really don't want us to get to this space where it's an either or sort of situation. I am the optimist. Anyone who talks to me, I am the optimist. I still say, fellas, she could be fine. She can, have good conversation, and she's still useful enough to go a good hour or two, or whatever it may be. You can still have that. So, and I believe they're still out there, whether they're in their 30s, 40s, or 50s. However, and still have all, the integrity and the well-being, and look at the world in a very much more positive space than others do. So I just don't want to get caught up into the either or. But you usually find that a lot of people were not honest in their selections prior to, when they talk about what they're looking for now.
Right. And
I hope I covered that in a way.
And I honestly want to clear some people up today, free some people by what I'm about to say. When we look at some of the women that I know, some of the most successful women that I know are single, myself included, right? Or should I say, some of them may never been married at all, right? And it almost makes them feel like there's something wrong with them. And I need people to understand that sometimes it has nothing to do with you as a person while you're still single. Some people just don't want to work hard. You'll be amazed of the amount of people that has said things to me and pretty much told me, Yasheka, I'm not ready for you because I already know you're not gonna let me do this and then the third. So already they're looking at me like it's not that he's not attracted to me. It's just that he wants his days where, for lack of a better word, he's being lazy, and he don't have to worry about somebody looking at him with a corner eye. You know what I mean? And when I say lazy, I'm talking about in all areas of life, right? That's what it is. And so some people, then you look at some people and say, well, why are they single? I'm not. A lot of times, because at the end of the day, you're not looking for the same thing. You guys are looking for something different. Not necessarily what you need, but what you desire, right? Because I heard people say that, like, I've seen two people together one time. I was out in DC, and I was in a car with someone, and I was waiting in the car while the other person went inside of the store. And there was this couple that walked by that was, you could just kind of tell their lifestyle more or less, right? And so the person I was in a car with made the comment. They say, I don't get it. Like, everybody can find love. Like, even they found each other. Why I can't find nobody? And you look at it and you say, well, okay, let's be honest. Would you have dated him? And I can tell you right now, the answer is no. So what do you care about him being taken? So in other words, that's how it works. By the time we eliminate the ones that we feel that is up to status with us, or whatever we think our minimal is, right? I mean, the pickings get really slim because it's somebody else's. It's not you. It's just that there's more people that don't want to do the work to get to your level than to actually do the work and get to it. Like, it's more people, like, they just don't, a lot of them don't want to do the work. They don't. And so, I mean, because literally I have heard men say, Sheka, more or less, like, I can't give you what you need. I'm like, dude, I just need a little time. I need a little this, a little that. And you might call that joker, and, they're in the middle of doing something else. So I always take it like, hey, it's not me, it's you. Whether you got some other stuff going on and you're not telling me about, or whatever. In other words, don't gas my head up and tell me I'm this woman that requires so much. In some instances, it is true. But if I've already let them go past the third or fourth date or whatever, then we've already set a tone that you're somebody I'm interested in. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, it should be, you still got something else going on and you can't give me your time, then that means that you got something else going on, and that's it. So, but I think people need to hear that sometimes, because I hear so many women that wonder why they're single. And then I look at a lot of And the thing about it is that when I look at the men who are single, are equivalent to the women who are single. Isn't that amazing? Like it's crazy, crazy. Like in other words, when it comes to lifestyle, the men that I see that are single, when it comes to their lifestyle, the women are, it's like the biggest class up in a certain area, right? It's crazy how that works because I'm looking at that like one, everybody from those sides get together. But both people are looking for something different. And so that's why, because the people who are not, who are in different, like, you know what I'm saying? Like the classes is, you would think they would be different. Like one of these two people just get together. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm tongue twisted, but you know what I mean? You know, but yeah.
That's another three-part episode that we have to cover because logically it all would make sense.
Hmm.
And but you and I have discussed it ad nauseum, Yasheka, where we've said that people make dating a lot more challenging than it has to.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not even going to go into because if I open that can of worms, we going to be here for another 3 hours or more. But yes, you're right. You are freeing some people in that space because there are those people who will then create something that you can tell they didn't hear what you were asking for. But I've always said for years, there are men and women who don't want to do the work for what they're looking for. And to that, I will always say, do the effing work. It will be worth it. I said, we're only talking about the rest of your damn life. We're not talking about a week. You've done it for that job. You've done it for that business. You've done it for that school. All these things that men and women go leap hurdles and go through fires and write books about it. But somehow, when it comes to this person that you're going to be sharing a house, a future, business, traveling with, it just becomes that there are those men who and women whose feet are stuck in cement
Hmm.
and they're just determined not to put in the work. So yes, don't always think it's you. I agree with you. We're on the same ballpark with that, Yashika.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I just, it's a, I don't know. It's one of those things where I look at it and I say, you know what? Life is crazy. Life is crazy in terms of the way, because those people, I think a lot of them who are at a certain level in life and they're single, they've done a lot of healing. And so they know that it takes a little bit more to find what someone, when they say somebody on my level, someone who has done the healing like them, because this person over here may not have done the healing. So that person's not right for you, you know. I had a conversation with someone yesterday again, and one of the things that they had said to me about their husband, and they had said that if they had met their husband many years ago, um, they they would have, it would have been worth it because, in other words, he's perfect now, right? As far as the person that she's looking for. But here's the thing: he's her third marriage, and she's his third marriage. And so, like I asked her, I said, "But would you have been ready for him, and would he have been ready for you?" That's the thing about it. It doesn't, like, they needed to go through it. They both of y'all needed to go through that before you met each other. That's part of, you don't get to just jump, right? And then they said to me, "Well, why does it have to be that hard?" It is that hard because, trust me, the 20-year-old you and the 20-year-old him, y'all wouldn't have been together. Wouldn't have been together. You both had to go out and learn, find your own path. I said, because if this thing takes you to the end and you're saying this is the best guy you've ever been with in your life, trust me, you wouldn't have been able to recognize that before. Period. You wouldn't have been able to recognize that before. And people forget that. People
They
forget
do.
that
They do.
it's all part of the process. It's all part of the process. You know, and someone had told me, was talking to someone a few weeks ago, and I had made the comments to them about they said something to me about me being married. And I said, no, I'm divorced twice. And they said, what's wrong with them? What's wrong with them men? I say, nothing's wrong with them. They're just perfect for someone else. That's it. There's nothing wrong with them. Both of them are married now. Both of my ex-husbands are married now. And I'm like, so whatever happened prepared them for the marriage they have now. You know what I mean? So in other words, there's nothing wrong with them. Like there's nothing wrong with me. We just didn't match well. We just didn't mesh well. You know, we had babies together, beautiful babies, but that's it. You know? Yeah.
No, that's a powerful thing. Yeah, I think many people, it gets back to the other part of doing the work is accepting that you don't get to skip the steps. There is a process of growth that you have to go through, because as wise as I think I was in my 20s and 30s, seasons I studied and talked to therapists and coaches and counselors, attorneys, and the myriad of books and seminars, you know, I know I'm not the same person to where I am now, as
Uh,
much as I felt I knew back then,
yeah.
and the things that I'm willing to speak on with more confidence today than I was years ago. So meeting that person today wouldn't have been the same as was. So no, I agree with you 110%. But you can't, ladies and gentlemen, you can't skip it. You know, you just have to go through it. That's just
But
what it
another
is.
thing that I was going to say though is that yes, you do have to go through the steps. But the flip side of that, especially when you're talking to someone that's been married before, is that well, if you ain't done the work, this ain't gonna make it either. I mean, ain't gonna make it either. Because here's the thing though. Here's the thing though. I'm sure marriage 1 and 2, you thought they was gonna last too. You see what I'm saying? And they didn't. So at one point, you thought that shit was gonna last. So in other words, if you guys, by being both of your third marriages, if you have not done the work, then it's going to be a lot of tough roads ahead. Now, granted, you may not be so quick to run to the courts and get a divorce because you are older, but it's still going to be the same challenges ahead, especially if you brought some of that raw stuff, that unhealed stuff into that relationship. That's just the way it is. It's gonna be. It's gonna create issues at some point. So you can learn to align them together. But something else that someone has said is that they honestly said that they do not want anyone who hasn't been in threesomes and who don't like women sexually. And it says it really depends on the mindset. And they said, I don't date, I court, I look for her to make it past all my deal breakers, which are not naming on here, which she won't know what they are because I just casually work them into conversation. And once she passes that, I look for compatibility and what she has to offer, bring to the table. Let's just say I'm a very happy man the way I do things. So I mean, he has a process. He says pretty much he sends them through tests to even see how many dates he's gonna go on with, and if they're not passing the test, then he don't come back. So he says that because he got to protect his peace. I guess he said he don't want to go through reckless relationships either. So um, and then someone says they just looking for a date. In other words, when they go on a date, they don't really put no thought into it. They just looking for a date. And then someone says they have to be someone that's straight up about what she wants. If it matches their energy and doesn't take my efforts for granted, that's a go. In other words, people want to be appreciated. They want to be, to know, just certain things. It's just, yeah. I mean, it's just, yeah, all that. I think all those were um, really solid perspectives, even the ones that were a joke, because someone even said on here that I mean, and you could see it as a joke, but in hindsight, it may not be. But what he said was at least some teeth and no less than one leg. In other words, he's saying he open to date anything. He's just trying to find it. You know what I mean? In other words, it's so hard, I guess, until he said he's at the point now where he like, listen, just let her have some teeth and at least one leg. He don't even care at this point. He just like it's just hard out here. I date anybody at this point.
Well, I always say, as long as you're honest about it, and just be real clear. And I said, be careful what you ask for, because you just may get it. And if you're not honest about it, then you're going to find yourself in a world of hurt. And yes, a lot of things in truth are told in a humorous manner. So
Mhm.
good luck, my good man.
I know, right? And so yeah, so I like doing this type of show. I like to do the whole because more or less, although I post the questions, it still give people an opportunity to just say some things, right? And the perspectives is you can look at the people like perspectives. Like when I hear a certain comment that's being made, I'll automatically go to that person's Facebook because I'm like, okay, let me kind of give an idea of this person and why they would think this. So it's like I'm being a fortune teller, right? I want to know. I want to know a little bit more about this person who made this comment. If I don't know them outside of Facebook, you know what I mean? And so, and I really enjoy that perspective. And I love when they inbox me because the inbox questions or the inbox answers, those be the good ones, the juicy ones that they be like, I can't put this shit out there because I don't want the wrong person to see it.
Yeah, that's what I get. I get that.
And I love it. And I just say, keep them coming, because if they're posing an answer to that particular thing, that's one thing. But if they're in my inbox asking a question, then I'll definitely that's different. Then I'll go ahead and talk about the question that was asked, but not the person. But those answers, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see why this person does that. Like I can look at them and see why they may feel this way, you know. But I love it though. And so you said you get some of the same questions, same thing.
Yes, which I'm planning to use next week. I got the fellas there; they're in on my case now, and so they made it a point that I reach out to you and your legions of women because there's some things they need to know and they don't want to hear from me. So
Sure.
we're in this panels, a couple of panels, and so they said that's the military woman. That's that military. So, no, actually, and one of them said the pretty military woman. So I says okay. I says I'll ask. I'll ask. So we'll cover that next week. And we'll
Absolutely.
see what you and the ladies that tune in have to say about this. But the men want to know. These brothers need to know.
Absolutely. Bring it on. Look, I love it. I love it. Because we just want answers. And I love the fact that we all are having open, honest dialogue. You know, I mean, not, you know, because it's still going to be a process because we're working out the kinks, right? Because we're getting, like I said in previous video, we're trying to get through these different generations that are in us, right? And so now we kind of got it on straight now. We kind of understand that how to mix all that together and bring it into what we got going on in the world now and not just because we don't want to get away from everything grandma and them did, you know, because in that way, the traditional of being married and staying married, we want that to come with us. But that hustle mode all the time, or the rules that the different things that they did, no, we're not bringing that stuff with us. We're gonna just bring we're bringing like God did when he rebuilt. He only took two of everything. We only need two from every generation. We need two of the things y'all did from every generation. So we'll take y'all this, we'll take y'all that. Nope, y'all don't get no more. We're taking these two. You know, and that's it. They take two from
Yeah.
all the generations. And so now that we're standing here, so we're six strong, because I'm talking three generations back. You're six strong, so now these other two we got to go pick up for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? So now that we're doing that, we're going through that heal process. Now we can start seeing more marriages because I just really think that COVID was maybe God's way of us putting down, of being so, because we were still on socials, but it forced families to be together. You know what I mean? It forced people to be in a house together. Rather, and some of them, it was testing their relationship to see if this is really my forever person. You know, and so I really think that it was part of the plan. Like, in other words, somewhere we're not making babies, and yeah, I'm not ready to. I need my babies to keep being made. I need the families to keep doing. I need this. So let me do something so I can mix it up a little bit, so all y'all can get back on the same track, the right track, which was meant for this world. Babies can be made, relationships, because remember, we get married under his eyes, right? So he wants to see more of that. And so he said, okay, I tell you what, let's do it this way. So I think it was all part of the process. And so now we're here. And so now that we're in that healing space and we're healing, now we can get to the other side and start to get these people together because we have still so many children that do not have two homes in a family, I mean, two parents in a home. You know what I mean? And so although it may not necessarily be your child, it may be a mixed children. So now those children have two more parents or two more parents or whatever, you know what I mean? And so it takes a village. And so I just think that this is what this is about. And so I think now we can kind of put it together and grow from there.
I agree wholeheartedly. I really, and I think you said the perfect word, the village. I really want us to get back to village building somehow, in some way. And, we can debate that for another, 2,400 hours as to what may have went wrong because everyone's going to have a perspective. But I really want us to get back to village building. This is when we were at our strongest, and history has always shown that and anywhere in the world. So, and that's why I think this platform is that. If I may, Yasheka, just, and not to bring a somber note, but I really, on behalf of our platform here, I just want to send thoughts and prayers out to those of the tragedy in Buffalo and in Texas. And if anything, as a reminder that, let's, again, these are people who left the home to never come back. And so as we talk about this platform of love and sex and dating and things of this nature, all the more reason for those that are in relationships, or for those of you who are parents, single, or if you're both together, take the time to love on each other. Take the time to love on each other in this village. So again, I just wanted to just bring that out there, but just bring it. Just let us know that we care, and you're in our thoughts and prayers of that. So for those of you all who are in relationships or starting to date or things of this nature, this is why we want to have this platform of getting you to date intentionally and with the right mindset, so that you're not wasting time, and you're connecting with the right person that you really want to be with. So that was all I want to say about that.
Okay. All right. Well, this is going to wrap up another Thursday. So we're just moving on. So maybe we'll try this again. But anyway, for those of you who are out there and you stayed around, thank you so much. If you're coming in after this live is posted, make sure you hashtag replay so we'll know that you've been there. And to check Ronnie and I out, go to datingdiscussions.com, and also you can catch us on our personal Facebook pages and Instagram. And I will see you in the next video.
Yes, and thank to all that contributed. Thank you to all you. We appreciate the input. Have a good night, everybody. Take care. See you next.